There is a peculiar misunderstanding that follows every quiet life. We imagine that influence belongs to the loudest voice, the brightest display, or the person constantly proving their worth to the world. Yet history, experience, and human nature suggest something entirely different. The deepest changes often arrive without applause. A tree does not announce that it is growing. The sunrise does not ask permission to replace the darkness. The strongest foundations are laid beneath the surface, where no one thinks to look. What unsettles people is rarely your success itself. It is the realization that you continue moving forward without their approval, without constant recognition, and without making your journey a spectacle. There is something profoundly unsettling about a person who no longer depends on the crowd for confidence. Such a person cannot easily be manipulated by praise, nor discouraged by neglect. They have discovered a source of strength that exists beyond the opinions surrounding them. The human heart has an odd habit of measuring itself against others. When someone grows quietly, without competition or complaint, it forces everyone nearby to confront a difficult question. If progress is possible without excuses, then what have my own excuses been protecting? This is why silent growth often creates discomfort long before it receives admiration. The greatest transformations are almost always invisible while they are taking place. Patience strengthens character before it produces results. Discipline reshapes a person long before it changes their circumstances. By the time the world notices what has become visible, the real work has already been finished in secret. Growth has a curious habit of hiding itself while it is happening. We expect change to feel dramatic, to arrive with unmistakable signs. Yet most meaningful transformation is almost impossible to detect from one day to the next. A single page read, one difficult decision made with integrity, another morning of showing up when comfort whispered otherwise. None of these appear remarkable in isolation. They seem too small to matter. But life has never been built from isolated moments. It is built from countless ordinary choices that quietly gather into an extraordinary direction. We often deceive ourselves into believing that progress must always be visible before it can be considered real. We measure our lives by public milestones instead of private victories. We wait for applause before trusting that our efforts have value. Yet the most essential work within a human being has always taken place beyond the reach of spectators. Character grows in silence because character is not concerned with performance. It concerns itself with becoming. A seed beneath the soil offers no evidence to the impatient observer. The ground appears unchanged, almost empty. One could stand above it every day and conclude that nothing is happening. Yet beneath the surface, roots are stretching through darkness, seeking stability before they ever reach toward the light. If the seed abandoned its work simply because no one could see it, there would never be a tree. The invisible season is not a delay of growth, it is growth itself. The modern world has made visibility appear more valuable than substance. We are surrounded by reminders that every achievement should be announced, every effort documented, every small success displayed before it has even matured. Gradually, we begin to confuse attention with significance. We imagine that what remains unseen possesses little worth, but truth has never depended upon witnesses. A wise decision remains wise whether anyone applauds it or not. An honest act does not become more virtuous because it gathers admiration. There is a strange freedom in understanding this. Once you no longer require constant evidence that your progress is being noticed, your energy is no longer divided between becoming better and appearing better. The person who seeks appearances must continually maintain an image. The person who seeks growth simply continues growing. One becomes exhausted by performance, while the other becomes strengthened by purpose. Invisible growth also demands patience, and patience has become one of the rarest virtues. We have become accustomed to immediate results, immediate answers, immediate recognition. We expect life to reward today's effort before tomorrow arrives. Yet nearly everything enduring refuses to obey such impatience. Trust develops slowly. Wisdom is accumulated quietly. Integrity is tested repeatedly before it becomes reliable. These things cannot be hurried without being weakened. There is also humility hidden within unseen progress. When no audience is watching, our motives become clearer. We discover whether we desired improvement itself, or merely the admiration that improvement might bring. It is easy to work diligently when recognition is guaranteed. It is far more revealing to continue faithfully when no one notices the sacrifice. In those unnoticed moments, our intentions are gently exposed. We either continue because the work is worthy, or we abandon it because the applause never arrived. Perhaps this explains why so many remarkable people seem ordinary for such a long time. Their greatest victories were never public events. They spent years shaping habits no one praised, resisting temptations no one witnessed, choosing discipline over comfort in moments history would never record. When success finally appeared, Observers often mistook the visible outcome for the entire journey. They overlooked the countless invisible decisions that made the outcome inevitable. The deepest strength is rarely loud, because it has no need to convince anyone of its existence. It has already proven itself through repeated acts of quiet faithfulness. Long before circumstances reveal what a person has become, that person has already been transformed where no eye could follow and no applause could interfere. There is something strangely unsettling about quiet confidence, not because it is aggressive nor because it demands attention, but because it refuses to ask permission to exist. Most people understand confidence only when it announces itself. They expect certainty to be loud, persuasive, and eager to prove its own importance. Yet the strongest confidence often speaks the least. It moves with a calmness that does not depend upon agreement, applause, or constant reassurance. Many imagine that jealousy is born from another person's success. More often, it is born from another person's peace. Success can sometimes be dismissed as luck, privilege, or fortunate timing. Peace is far more difficult to explain away. When someone continues to walk steadily without seeking recognition, without competing for attention, and without becoming anxious over every opinion, those around them are confronted with a reality that quietly challenges their own restlessness. Human nature has always possessed a curious tendency to compare. We measure ourselves against those standing nearby, because comparison feels easier than honest self-examination. As long as everyone around us appears equally uncertain, equally distracted, or equally dependent upon approval, we feel strangely comfortable. But when one person begins to move differently, without resentment, without unnecessary noise, and without the desperate need to impress, the comparison changes. It no longer concerns possessions or achievements. It concerns the condition of the heart. A person who has learned to trust quiet progress becomes difficult to influence through ordinary means. Praise no longer controls them, because they have discovered that compliments are pleasant but temporary. Criticism loses much of its power, because they no longer measure their worth by passing opinions. This independence often appears mysterious to those who have never experienced it. They wonder why approval no longer produces excitement or why disapproval no longer creates fear. There is a subtle difference between confidence that is performed and confidence that has been earned. Performed confidence constantly seeks evidence that others believe in it. It depends upon appearance, reputation, and repeated affirmation. Earned confidence grows through repeated encounters with difficulty. It remembers the mornings when discipline prevailed over comfort, the evenings when integrity survived temptation, and the quiet moments when perseverance continued despite disappointment. Such confidence has little interest in convincing strangers, because it has already survived private battles that required no audience. This is why silent confidence can unintentionally disturb those who still depend upon comparison. It quietly removes the usual rules of competition. There is no boasting to criticize, no arrogance to expose, no obvious weakness to exploit. The confident person simply continues walking. For someone accustomed to measuring life as a contest for attention, this becomes frustrating. They cannot compete with someone who refuses to compete. It is remarkable how often insecurity disguises itself as criticism. Instead of asking what another person's consistency might teach them, some choose to question their motives. They assume hidden pride where there is only discipline. They suspect selfishness where there is merely healthy boundaries. They imagine superiority simply because another person has become comfortable with silence. These judgments frequently reveal less about the one being observed than about the observer. Quiet confidence also carries an unexpected mirror. Without speaking a word, it reminds others of promises they abandoned, habits they neglected, or dreams they postponed. No accusation is necessary. The simple sight of someone continuing faithfully can awaken uncomfortable memories within those who stopped believing such faithfulness was possible. The discomfort rarely comes from being condemned. It comes from recognizing possibilities that have long been ignored. There is a remarkable strength in those who no longer rush to defend themselves against every misunderstanding. They understand that truth requires less maintenance than appearances. A false image demands constant protection because it fears exposure. Genuine character possesses no such anxiety. It accepts that some people will misunderstand, others will underestimate, and still others will quietly resent what they cannot explain. Yet none of these reactions possess the power to alter what has already been patiently formed beneath the surface, where confidence was shaped not by admiration, but by countless unseen choices that gradually freed the soul from its dependence upon the approval of the crowd. One of the quietest struggles within the human heart is the desire to be seen. It is not an evil desire in itself. Every person longs to know that their life matters, that their efforts are not unnoticed, that their existence carries weight beyond the passing of days. Yet this longing can slowly become confused with something else. We begin to believe that our purpose depends upon the recognition of others, as though applause were the measure of truth and admiration the proof of significance. There is a profound difference between living for validation and living with purpose. Validation is borrowed. Purpose is owned. Validation rises and falls with changing opinions, while purpose remains steady even when no voice offers encouragement. A person who depends upon approval must continually adjust themselves to satisfy the expectations surrounding them. A person guided by purpose asks a different question altogether. Rather than wondering how they may be admired, they wonder how they may remain faithful to what is right. Much of human anxiety springs from confusing these two pursuits. We become exhausted not because our responsibilities are too great, but because we are attempting to carry something that was never ours to bear. The opinions of others are among the most unstable possessions imaginable. They alter with fashion, emotion, misunderstanding, and circumstance. To anchor one's identity in such shifting waters is to accept a life of continual uncertainty. Purpose possesses an entirely different character. It asks for commitment rather than applause. It is content to remain unnoticed if the work itself is worthy. A craftsman who truly loves excellence does not become less careful simply because no customer is watching. The value of the work lies within the work itself. In much the same way, a person devoted to meaningful living discovers satisfaction in acting with integrity even when recognition never arrives. The temptation toward validation is often subtle because it disguises itself as noble ambition. We tell ourselves that we merely wish to inspire others, to make an impact, or to be appreciated for our efforts. These desires may indeed be honorable, yet somewhere along the journey the heart begins asking not whether the work is good, but whether enough people have noticed it. Gradually the audience becomes more important than the calling, and appearance quietly replaces substance. There is an unexpected freedom in realizing that purpose survives misunderstanding. A person may be overlooked, criticized, or entirely forgotten by those around them, yet still remain faithful to what truly matters. Truth does not become false because it is unpopular. Integrity does not lose its worth because it receives no applause. The deepest realities of life have never depended upon public agreement for their existence. This understanding changes the way one approaches both success and disappointment. Success no longer becomes an intoxicating proof of personal value, nor does failure become a final sentence upon one's identity. Both are simply circumstances through which purpose continues its quiet work. The person anchored in purpose learns from achievement without becoming proud, and learns from failure without becoming defeated. It is curious how often those seeking validation become prisoners of the very people they hope to impress. Every compliment creates dependence. Every criticism produces fear. Decisions are no longer made according to wisdom, but according to anticipated reactions. Such a life appears free from the outside because it enjoys admiration, yet inwardly it has surrendered its liberty to the changing moods of strangers. Purpose restores that liberty. It permits a person to continue doing what is right despite misunderstanding. It allows patience where others demand haste and silence where others expect endless explanation. It teaches that not every accusation deserves a defense, and not every success requires an announcement. Some of the most meaningful victories occur entirely within the conscience, where no observer can either reward or diminish them. This is why quiet progress often belongs to those who have gradually loosened their dependence upon approval. Their energy is no longer consumed by maintaining an image. It is invested instead in becoming the kind of person whose character remains consistent whether standing before a crowd or sitting entirely alone. Their confidence no longer grows from favorable opinions, but from the steady knowledge that each ordinary decision made with honesty, discipline, and humility strengthens a life whose true value was never determined by the number of eyes that happened to notice it. There is a peculiar language spoken by discipline, though it uses no words. It does not argue, persuade, or seek admiration. It simply continues. While many strive to explain their intentions, discipline quietly reveals them through repeated action. It possesses a kind of honesty that speeches cannot imitate, for habits eventually expose what promises attempt to conceal. We often overestimate the importance of what people say about themselves and underestimate the significance of what they consistently do. Words are remarkably generous. They can describe virtues long before those virtues exist. A person may speak confidently about courage while avoiding every difficult decision. Another may speak endlessly about kindness while remaining impatient with those nearest to them. Language allows us to imagine ourselves better than we are. Discipline offers no such illusion. It measures character not by aspiration but by repetition. This is why consistency carries such quiet authority. It does not demand belief because it gradually earns it. A single act of determination may inspire admiration, but repeated acts performed over months and years create something far more substantial. They produce trust. We begin to believe a person not because of what they promise, but because their conduct has become dependable. There is something deeply unfashionable about this truth. We live in an age that celebrates sudden transformation, dramatic announcements, and visible breakthroughs. The ordinary rhythm of faithful effort appears almost insignificant by comparison. Yet nearly everything enduring in human life has been built through repetition rather than excitement. Knowledge is gathered one lesson at a time. Wisdom grows through countless reflections. Integrity is formed each time honesty is chosen when deceit would have been easier. Discipline also possesses a remarkable indifference toward emotion. Feelings are valuable companions, but they make poor rulers. They rise and fall with health, circumstance, memory, and expectation. If our actions depend entirely upon enthusiasm, then our progress will forever imitate the instability of our emotions. Discipline gently refuses such dependence. It continues when motivation is abundant, but it also continues when motivation quietly disappears. This does not mean discipline lacks feeling. Rather, it places conviction above impulse. It understands that many worthwhile actions will not always feel pleasant in the moment they are performed. The student rarely delights in every hour of study. The craftsman does not greet every task with excitement. The person committed to growth often walks through seasons where visible results remain absent. Yet discipline remains faithful, because it has learned that immediate comfort and lasting fulfillment seldom travel together. There is another quality hidden within disciplined living that often escapes attention. It removes unnecessary drama from ordinary decisions. The person governed only by desire must negotiate with themselves every morning. They repeatedly ask whether they feel ready, whether circumstances are ideal, or whether inspiration has arrived. Such constant negotiation consumes energy before meaningful work has even begun. Discipline quietly settles many of these debates in advance. Certain actions become part of one's character rather than subjects of daily argument. It is remarkable how this quiet consistency influences others without deliberate effort. Advice may be questioned. Opinions may be dismissed. Yet faithful example possesses a persuasive strength that arguments rarely achieve. A person who steadily lives according to their convictions creates evidence that no explanation can replace. Their life itself becomes a testimony to the possibility of perseverance. This influence often works slowly. Many fail to notice it because discipline rarely seeks immediate results. Its effects resemble water shaping stone rather than lightning striking the earth. Day after day, small acts accumulate. They appear almost powerless when observed individually, yet together they reshape the entire landscape of a person's character. Others may not recognize the transformation while it is occurring, but they eventually discover someone whose calmness, reliability, and strength seem almost effortless, forgetting that what appears effortless is often the product of years spent choosing faithfulness over convenience. Perhaps this is why discipline rarely needs to announce itself. It understands that genuine authority is not granted by reputation, but earned through conduct. A disciplined person spends little time convincing others that they are changing because their habits quietly carry that message more clearly than any declaration ever could. Every promise fulfilled, every temptation resisted, every responsibility accepted without complaint, and every ordinary day lived with steady intention speaks in a language that reaches far beyond conversation, revealing a character that has been patiently shaped by choices repeated long after excitement faded and long before recognition ever arrived. Not everyone notices quiet progress, and perhaps that is one of its greatest mercies. The world often trains its attention upon what is loud, immediate, and dramatic. It celebrates sudden success while overlooking the long years of unseen preparation that made such success possible. Yet there are always a few who possess different eyes. They are less impressed by appearance and more attentive to substance. They recognize the slow shaping of character long before they admire the visible results. It is tempting to believe that being overlooked is a form of failure. We assume that if our efforts are not widely acknowledged, they must somehow lack importance. But there is a profound difference between being unnoticed and being unseen. Many people fail to notice because they are distracted by noise. Others see with remarkable clarity because they have learned where true value is usually found. Their attention is drawn not toward spectacle but toward consistency. Those who have walked difficult paths themselves often recognize quiet growth almost instinctively. They understand the language of perseverance because they have spoken it in their own lives. They know what it costs to remain faithful when enthusiasm disappears, to continue working when recognition is absent, and to choose integrity when compromise promises easier rewards. Such people require little explanation. They observe patterns rather than performances. They pay attention to habits rather than headlines. This is why the right people rarely become fascinated by outward success alone. They understand how easily appearances deceive. Confidence may be imitated, wealth may be inherited, popularity may be accidental, but steady character cannot be borrowed. It must be formed patiently through countless decisions that no audience ever applauds. Those who have learned this lesson begin looking beyond impressive moments toward the ordinary routines from which genuine strength quietly emerges. There is also an unusual patience within such observers. They do not rush to celebrate every promising beginning, nor do they quickly dismiss those whose progress appears slow. They understand that human beings are not finished works but living stories. They know that a single season cannot reveal the whole meaning of a life. This patience allows them to recognize growth where others see only delay. They perceive direction instead of demanding immediate perfection. It is curious how often meaningful relationships begin through this quiet recognition. Respect develops long before words of admiration are spoken. Trust grows from repeated observations of faithfulness, rather than from impressive first impressions. The deepest connections between people are seldom built upon dazzling moments. They are formed through consistent evidence that someone's character remains reliable across changing circumstances. The desire to impress everyone usually prevents us from being fully appreciated by the people who matter most. When our attention becomes divided among countless opinions, we begin shaping ourselves according to expectations that constantly shift. The result is often a version of ourselves designed for approval rather than authenticity. Ironically, those capable of recognizing genuine character become less interested because they value honesty more than performance. There is freedom in accepting that not every observer deserves equal importance. Some notice only achievements, others notice motives. Some are captivated by outward success, while others quietly ask what kind of person success has produced. These questions reveal entirely different ways of seeing the world. One measures accomplishments, the other measures character. The remarkable thing is that quiet progress gradually attracts those who share similar values. Without deliberate effort, it creates a kind of silent recognition between people who have each learned the worth of patience, discipline, and humility. They may never speak about these qualities directly, yet they perceive them in one another through ordinary conduct. There is little need for exaggerated introductions, because consistent actions have already communicated what words could only attempt to describe. Perhaps this explains why the most valuable opportunities often arrive unexpectedly. They come not because someone mastered the art of self-promotion, but because another person quietly observed years of faithful living. Character has a way of introducing itself before names are exchanged. Reliability leaves impressions that speeches cannot manufacture. Integrity becomes visible in countless ordinary moments until those capable of seeing beyond appearances begin to place confidence where confidence has quietly been earned. Recognizing a depth that was never advertised, a strength that never demanded attention, and a life whose steady direction has been speaking long before anyone thought to listen. Peace is often misunderstood because it rarely resembles the images we have created of it. Many imagine peace as the absence of difficulty, the removal of every obstacle, or the assurance that everyone approves of their choices. Yet such a condition has never truly existed. Human life has always been accompanied by uncertainty, disagreement, and change. If peace depends upon the disappearance of these things, then it will forever remain beyond reach. Real peace possesses a quieter nature. It is not the silence of an empty world, but the steadiness of a well-ordered soul. It does not arise because every circumstance has become favorable. It grows because a person has gradually learned which burdens belong to them and which never did. This distinction appears simple, yet it has the power to reshape an entire life. One of the greatest threats to quiet progress is the temptation to carry unnecessary weight. We begin with a sincere desire to improve ourselves, but somewhere along the journey we collect the expectations, opinions, and judgments of countless other people. We attempt to answer every criticism, satisfy every demand, and correct every misunderstanding. Gradually our attention shifts from becoming wiser to becoming acceptable. The pursuit of growth quietly gives way to the pursuit of approval. There is remarkable freedom in realizing that not every opinion deserves a response. Some misunderstandings are not invitations to explain but opportunities to remain faithful. The urge to defend ourselves often springs from the belief that our worth depends upon being correctly understood. Yet history repeatedly shows that many truthful lives have been misunderstood for long seasons. Their value did not diminish because recognition arrived late. The person who protects their peace learns the discipline of restraint. They discover that every conflict does not require participation, every criticism does not require an answer, and every invitation does not deserve acceptance. Such restraint is frequently mistaken for weakness because it refuses unnecessary confrontation. In reality, it is often the expression of strength. It takes little wisdom to react immediately. It takes far greater wisdom to know when silence accomplishes more than argument. There is also a difference between isolation and healthy boundaries. Isolation is usually born from fear. It withdraws because it expects harm from every encounter. Healthy boundaries arise from clarity. They do not reject people but simply recognize that every relationship cannot occupy the same place within one's life. Some voices deserve close attention because they are guided by honesty and goodwill. Others contribute only confusion, resentment, or endless distraction. Peace requires learning the difference. This discernment becomes increasingly important as progress continues. Growth often changes relationships in unexpected ways. Some people celebrate your development because it reminds them that change remains possible. Others quietly resist it because it unsettles the patterns to which they have grown accustomed. Neither reaction should determine your direction. If your purpose is governed by approval, encouragement may inflate your pride, while criticism destroys your courage. If your purpose rests upon deeper foundations, both praise and opposition become secondary. It is curious how much energy is wasted attempting to control what cannot be controlled. We cannot determine how others interpret our intentions. We cannot force respect where resentment has already taken root. We cannot persuade every critic or satisfy every expectation. Yet many spend years attempting precisely these impossible tasks, leaving little strength for the work that truly belongs to them. Quiet progress flourishes where attention is carefully guarded. Every unnecessary comparison steals focus. Every lingering resentment consumes strength that could have been invested elsewhere. Every endless argument delays work that remains unfinished. Protecting one's peace is therefore not an act of selfishness, but an act of stewardship. It preserves the inner clarity required to continue becoming the person one is called to be. The remarkable truth is that peace itself becomes a form of quiet influence. Those who remain calm amid misunderstanding, patient amid delay, and faithful without constant recognition reveal a kind of strength that cannot be manufactured through appearance alone. Their lives suggest that freedom is possible even within imperfect circumstances. They move steadily without becoming hardened, they remain humble without becoming uncertain, and they continue forward without surrendering their character to every passing opinion, guarding the quiet place where purpose, discipline, and integrity have taken root, allowing their unseen growth to continue with the confidence that what is patiently cultivated within will always possess greater strength than anything merely displayed before the eyes of the world.